I will formally call the Policy Committee meeting to order. It is Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. It is 6:04 p.m. We are meeting via Zoom teleconference in accordance with the governor's orders. Mr. Guarino, do you want to call roll?
Okay. All right. Ms. Bishop?
Here.
Ms. Ziem?
Here.
Mr. Guarino is here. We also have Mr. Rodriguez with us, and Ms. Bernardo, and also Sharon Giglio is with us. And I think that's everyone.
So we have we have three policies that we're looking at tonight. Mr. Parker is going to join us shortly. He's just having some connectivity issues. But we do have Mr. Rodriguez here, who could probably start speaking to the proposed policy EHAA, Employee Use of Network Resource and Telecommunications NRT Systems. Mr. Rodriguez, do you want to fill us in on this well-researched and organized policy you guys are bringing to us?
Sure. So you have to forgive me. This is my first policy ever proposed to the district. So if I don't do it correctly, just give me a little bit of a leash. Part of the reason, the entire reason why we're looking to propose this policy is to it's entirely for employees with devices. We're looking to purchase quite a lot of laptops, and they will be in the possession of teachers' hands. So this is mainly for employee use for the policy, which we try to form it in a way because we took from the NHSBA school board sample policy, and we worked it so it would fit the Nashua school district. So we kind of updated it to make it fit how we wanted to look in terms of the type of drives we use to store, whether it's cloud, network, or local drives on the computer. So we kind of broke it into two parts where there's a policy and then there's a procedure part below it. So, Missy.
Can I just ask you a question? I'm sure it'll be easy for you to explain because my questions go to my lack of knowledge about technology.
Yeah.
But they've been talking about bandwidth. Almost every meeting, bandwidth comes up. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming I know what that is. Can you give me a layman's?
Sure.
Quick. I'm sorry to be.
Yeah. Let's look.
Refresher for the rest of you.
Yeah, no problem. So let's think of it as plumbing, right? The smaller the pipe, the less water that can go through. But if you have a larger pipe, the more water can go through. So our pipe has increased 400%. So it was at 2 gigabits, wow, which allows just a little. It's a good amount of water. We sustain that through the district, but in anticipation for hybrid learning, we wanted to do quite a significant increase. So we increased that by 4 times to 8 gigabits. So that's just essentially a larger pipe. And that's actually what we call it in the tech terms. How big is your pipe? So our pipe is 8 gigabits right now. So just a larger pipe for more plumbing to go through.
So is that the 8 gigabytes, is that providing for growth in the future, or are we already maxed and need to look forward to more?
Yeah, the largest we can go that we can handle because of our existing equipment is 10 gigabits per second. We don't anticipate us going to 10 gigabits, especially if things go back to normal. We just don't feel like there will be a need. I don't think we're going to go back down to 2. We may go down to, let's say, 4 or 6, just because as technology evolves, we may need to, we want to evolve with it. So the more we have, the better. I remember when I first started in the district back in 2016, I believe we were at 400 megabits. So that is a quarter of what we had before. A quarter of what we had before. So we've made some pretty big leaps even in the past 4 years, and that's not it's not to say we weren't technology advanced back then. We've made great improvements because our devices that we've had from the district since 2016 to now is, I would say, it's close to 10 times more. So and that's with equal staffing as well. So we're kind of pushing up against it, but that's just a different conversation. But that's what our current bandwidth is right now.
So can I just, can I pick your brain further?
Sure.
So in my recollection, when I was on the board several years ago, the software that they had that they used for the kids to, I wish I could think of the name of it, but it was constantly breaking down. It was constantly messed up. I mean, it was a mess. I remember that real well. Am I confusing you? Because I probably need to know the name of it for you to address what I'm talking about.
Sometimes we have really crappy software.
It was this software, and it was expensive software. It was not. I remember thinking, we paid that much money for that, and this, and so has that been? So we still have some crappy software. Is that what we're saying?
We could, but we try to do our best of that. What
That was a political answer.
it was. I'm practicing. So with the additional funds that we've received from COVID money and federal and even state, it has given us an opportunity to purchase more applications. I think we're learning quickly that more isn't better, but probably less is more. So I think we're learning our lesson at the moment. So I think this gives us an opportunity to vet and use and see what works for us. So, even during these times, it kind of gives us an opportunity to really see what's really works for us and what doesn't work for us. And admittedly, right now, we do have some crappy applications that are being used, but
this week they were talking about they're talking about this new money that they're going to, and it was interesting. A lot of the money was going to be allocated for schools. So, and I guess I just assumed that was going to be towards technology, because when in my view, when we came into this pandemic, we were woefully prepared. I mean, that was one of our problems, I think, that we just weren't prepared for it.
Well, I think a credit to the district, we've been very nimble. That's just to show that, even as teachers, we've shown that, we can do a lot with what we're giving, and especially back in March, and the entire thing was thrown together in a week. And I mean that it really was. And I think that's a credit to just everybody involved, and just shows how much, this school district cares about its students.
And it's a credit to you also.
And not just me, it's really
you as well. Yes. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And to the board too, because you've done your part in wanting to, make the best decisions for the district. But, in terms of the federal funding that's coming our way, I don't want to say that technology is the only, dog in the fight. There are definitely other departments who need resources just as much as we do to make remote learning and regular in-person learning work. So, I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the department that takes up the most resources. Yes, we can spend the most money the quickest because technology is what it is. It's expensive, but I think I don't want to, be the one that takes all the resources. I'd like to, but it's just, we have to spread it evenly across, because, like I said, we're not the only department that has needs. Yeah.
So I have a quick question about the policy in front of us. A lot of it has to do with kind of, proper use of internet and the equipment that is being given to staff. And it might be in the policy here, but I didn't see it. Is this, a lot of it is just kind of self-monitoring, right? You're signing a policy and agreeing to participate in kind of quality behavior. We don't have an overarching kind of firewall that kind of notifies some other type of room in the basement, like this person now doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
So one of the, to answer this,
or should we say yes?
to answer this in a good way. So one of our goals when enrolling these laptops is to have a cloud solution. A cloud solution means that the teachers who'll be getting these laptops will be able to log on in a remote setting without jumping over the hoops that we set up initially for them right now. So what that means is also we can manage these devices in a remote way, as we do with the Chromebooks. Right now, we really don't have that capability with the Windows-based laptops, not the Chromebooks. So, but a lot of the things that the teachers use right now are cloud-based, and they can access some of our resources that are in district. So part of this is the responsibility of the teacher. And that was outlined in the data governance policy that I presented back in May. Yeah, so that a lot of that is kind of the foundation of where we went with this. Yeah. So it's kind of like that is a piece of it of the umbrella. This is kind of like, this is you as a user. You're responsible for the actual device, what you do with the data, and how you store it, and appropriate use of the device. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And then do they sign into like a VPN when they're at home, or is it just whatever Wi-Fi they have in their house?
Some do. We only, the things with VPNs is they're very resource intensive. And since they're coming into our district, it's kind of like, let's say you make let's go back 20 years ago, right? When you're making a phone call to one number and then the line is busy because people are calling over and over again. Picture a VPN being like that. So many connections can actually clog up the line, and that would take away from our bandwidth. So a lot of the teachers right now, they don't do that. And since a lot of it is cloud, let's say Zoom is not really, it's not a resource that we own or we don't host in the Nashua School District. So they can really do a lot of that stuff without actually using a VPN. Part of us managing the laptops is we're going to give them the opportunity to kind of access some resources easier. So that doesn't mean a VPN, but it does give us a little bit more of security with the devices. And they do hook onto their own Wi-Fi at home or wherever they are.
Okay.
So what's a VPN?
A VPN is a very private tunnel. So let's think of it this way. If you want to hold your ear up into a door with a cup and you can hear everybody's conversation, that's an unsecured line. But let's say you turn on a radio and then you start talking, the person's only going to hear the radio and it's kind of muffled. So it kind of protects them. So it's a kind of a way of securing the tunnel. And let's say there's lead in between the door too. So it's just a way of wrapping a piece of communication in a secure line.
So is that a very private instrument?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It can be a cloud-based or it can be through a device.
I'm quick.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Guarino?
Yeah. On the second page.
Yep.
Under support and service.
Support and service. Yes.
Okay. On your second bullet point.
Yep.
You have your last two sentences. Your last two sentences should be one sentence.
Okay.
So it says, if a user has modified their laptop configuration, either by installing additional software or making other changes, and then you have a period, like it's a complete
right.
sentence.
It just, yeah. Okay.
A comma, and then you continue on. It is the responsibility of the user to reinstall.
Okay.
So that's just kind of a grammatical kind of thing there.
Gabby, do we make that change and then submit it after? You have to help me out with that.
Yeah,
We'll keep notes of it, Greg.
Okay.
As we go, we'll make adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
That's the as amended when we propose this.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. And then on your last bullet point, you're talking directly. It says the technology department will need to provide internet access to you. I would just say to staff
or the user. Yeah.
Or the user.
Okay.
And will not not be diagnosing the current home networks or current home network or current home networks.
All right.
So and then you also say your device.
Yep.
So it looks like you're talking, like you're directly talking to someone, but it should kind of be neutral. And
thank you.
Yep. And I just had one more question about I know it's very strict. I mean, it's basically everything that a teacher or a staff does, that it's everything they're accessing through the cloud. So they can't put any software on there at all. So I'm wondering if teachers get something that might be innovative or something like that, is it possible to ask permission? Like we should have maybe a line in there that asks permission, that with the permission of IT department, like in other words, you say no, you prohibit any other software being put on the computer. But I'm just wondering if you should give a caveat so that if teachers, like, I know that social and emotional learning is something innovative, something new. I don't know if they have any. So it gets kind of a gray area between what's software and what's not software. Like sometimes you have things that work within like Excel or something like that, or within Word.
Yeah.
But
extensions or add-ons, or what you're
right. Right, an add-on. I don't have the correct vernacular, but I mean, I'm just asking, do you think it would be, just to give a little caveat, without just to say, no software should be added without permission, or just say that if staff wants, they could ask permission or something like that. And I'm just kind of asking that question to you, if you think that would be,
so
give people a little leeway.
Yeah. So what we do right now, and that's the case even right now. So we don't allow staff to download or add any stuff onto their Google Drive. Part of that is for security. There's a lot of very insecure applications out there and extensions that transfer data that we frankly have to be aware of and vet fully before we actually use them. So I think a lot of the intentions and the privacy policies of these applications are good. However, they still need to make money. So how companies make money is through data. And if they transfer data, and sell data, then that's not good for us as a school district. So part of what we have to do is we vet those applications. We have a process through vetting applications, and if it is approved and the company signs a data privacy agreement stating that their intentions are not to share our data as a school district, then we approve, then we add it on as an approved application. So we're going to have two different systems. One is through Google, and one is going to be through Microsoft. So the process is, we're trying to get it streamlined right now. It was kind of a tsunami along with remote learning of the amount of applications that we had to deal with. So when we do approve applications, we let them know, and we don't approve every single application. There are a lot of applications out there that are just not safe for use. And
that's great. That makes a lot of sense. Yep.
And it is a request. They can request an application, then technology department and a certain set of secret teachers do the vetting with me. So it's not just a singular person doing it. So, and we work really hard to get the applications up and going for everybody.
Okay. That's good. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah.
And it looks like here, because I'm also not super tech savvy, but on the back page, the back of the first page, users may make changes to the configuration of their laptop with permission from the IT department. These changes may include installing software, adding printers, or changing web browser settings.
Yeah.
Is
that's prudent. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But those are approved applications for install. So that's And so even selecting printers and stuff like that, that's not really adding like software. It's more like adding a driver that through a network printer. So.
Okay.
Yep.
And silly question, I don't think it has much to do with the policy, but just because we are remote, do we have, like how the Nashua Public Library, you have access to audiobooks and some of their online books? Are our students able to click into their school libraries and do the same from home?
Yep, those are all front-facing websites, just like WMUR or ESPN or whatever. So they're all publicly facing. Yep.
Good.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Does anybody else have any questions in regards to this policy?
I don't have any questions, but I want to apologize for being a little late. I had computer problems at the
Yes.
last second, and I had to call in big guns, me and my wife.
I was gonna say.
You didn't call me.
But here we go again. And
Yeah.
so I apologize for that. You know, you set up early and I hit the link and nothing happened. So I had to switch it to my personal computer.
You make it all right for us to get in trouble. That way, you know, we're all in the same boat. We're all going against the tide.
Expecting right now is unreasonable. But we welcome you. We're glad you're here.
So you want a motion
Yeah.
so I make a motion that we send this forward to the full board for approval.
I will second.
Excellent.
Okay. On the motion, Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Ziem,
Yes.
and Mr. Guarino votes yes. Motion carries 3-0.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodriguez, for
Well, thank you for having me.
all of that for us.
I'm gonna go have dinner.
Oh,
Lucky me, huh?
hey,
Have a good night.
All right.
you
take
too.
care.
Thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Yay. So the next policy that we're going to be looking at is proposed policy Ihbg, home education, instruction, and access to curricular and co-curricular programs.
Yep.
This is a new policy. Mr. Parker, do you want to summarize it for us?
Yes, it basically gives Nashua students, whether they go to our school or not, access to our resources under law, which is pretty common. And so if you look at districts across the state or even in New England, it's variations of a theme. You're not going to see something radically different. You know, they may have some little distinctions there. But it gives students who are being homeschooled access to our resources and just lays out a blueprint of how we, you know, work with parents, you know, if they make that decision to homeschool, those kids have access to athletics, co-curriculars, things like that. And so it just lays out the parameters under the law. And so, you know, it lays out, well, you know, it gives principals and superintendents or their designee. You'll notice it says superintendent or sometimes principal, but superintendent doesn't mean, let's say Dr. Mosley is going to manage this. He would, you know, this bill came about because Director of Student Services said we needed one because we had a student. Okay, I don't imagine that a lot of students will access this, but we have one student being homeschooled and we needed a policy just to cover ourselves.
Yep.
You know, just for on the books. And so,
So, can I?
Yes, Ms. Ziem.
Again, I'm chasing rabbits, but it's such a wonderful time for you to educate me. So when you're talking about, you often hear them compare the cost of charter schools, for instance, to public schools. And what I found was when I came on the board, it was very hard to compare things because you always had these little pots of money. And so when you looked at something, you weren't looking at the total versus the total. And so I'm wondering, and I guess I'm off into but it seems like to me you should compare likes to likes, not likes to unlikes. Do you know what I'm saying? For instance, is transportation, my understanding is that the transportation is also included for these people. So if you're saying that we give them X dollars, it's X dollars plus transportation, right? But is it just X dollars plus transportation or there are other pluses that I'm unaware of.
Well, I think it depends on the program a student might take or what they're involved in. So for instance, if you're in athletics, that might be some additional cost, but it depends on the program. All right. And so if you're homeschooled, I don't know if you wouldn't be taking the bus to school every day, but you might be dropped off by a parent for athletics. That would be after school. Right? So bus wouldn't necessarily be a factor in that regard, as if you were a full-time student in, whether Zoom or in the building. And so it depends on the program. If we get up and running and kids who are homeschool, if they're involved in athletics, you might have a certain cost to that. If you're in acting or drama, it might be something that you'll have to take care of for that. But anything else we would do like we would do for any other student. So, yeah.
I apologize for the interruption. I just got birthday cake.
Well, happy birthday. Is today your birthday?
No, I wouldn't tell you if it was. I've had too many. It's my grandson's birthday. He's 11.
Aw.
Yeah. He's still at the age where it's a good thing.
Yes. But yeah, I think back to transportation, I think it's, if they're coming in for the extracurriculars, is they have to get to the practice place, but then for like games and stuff that are away, they would jump on the bus for that anyway.
That's right.
So I think the parent is responsible for getting them to the location unless it's a scheduled out game.
Right. They're part of a program where the team or the club is going someplace together. But
right.
Yeah, you would expect that they would ride with their peers. Peers and go to the event.
Yeah, that makes sense. For the students, though, this is a question, a COVID-related question that just came to me. For the students that are being homeschooled and doing extracurriculars, we as parents who have students in the district who are doing sports as well, we had to sign a contract about like the proper masking and seating appropriately. Are these parents given the same option of signing that contract, or do they kind of fall through the cracks on that?
That's a good question, but what I will do is I think they should. Okay. We can certainly adapt the current contract that's used or make one specific to homeschooling if it's not in place. And that's a question I will ask Bob Chopa, but we can certainly make sure that happens. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, just so they have access to it, because they need to be kept safe as well.
Yep.
I don't have any more questions about this if anybody else does.
Ray. Jen, Ray.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm on my phone, so I'm seeing one person at a time.
Okay.
Really easy.
No problem.
Blame the children who've taken.
On page 2, we're under records. It says on the second paragraph, it says RSA 193-A 6. It says, I require the parent guardian, or that's a little bit confusing. Is it?
Well, we just say parent or guardian because sometimes people are not the blood parents, but they're a guardian.
No, I mean the wording is kind of confusing.
To maintain a portfolio of records and materials relative to the home education program. Let's say if somebody wants to come back into the system full time, all right, we have to place that student. What classes or what level are we placing you at? What is the history of what you have done?
Right. No, I know that, but I mean, is that I supposed to be there, or is that part of the RSA? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Says,
so
it's like section.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay, I believe it's part of the bill because it's not like an II, number 1, but I can delineate that. I can delineate that better.
Yes, yeah. So I think it's I think it says requires the parent guardian to maintain a portfolio. Like I see what that. But to me, I was a little bit confused as to when one ended and the other began.
Yep, and I didn't catch that when none of us did when we read it. So we can fix that easily enough.
That's
Okay.
why it takes a team.
And on the next paragraph, the first sentence, a little bit confused as to what copies that are being, the parents and guardians need only provide copies to the district to the extent necessary to demonstrate proficiency. But is it copies of their own evaluations or?
Yes, if let's say you had an evaluation by an outside agency, okay. And you're coming back into the system, all right, but you are working closely with another entity, a tutor or what have you. All right, so what is the work that you did?
Okay.
So we can assess that.
Right. So I think to clarify, I think we should add copies of outside evaluations or whatever. So it says for evaluations which are not provided by the district, parent guardians need only provide copies of those evaluations or?
Yes, copies, so you take exams or an assessment or something, so again, coming back in the district, how do we know where to place you?
Right.
Okay, what services do you need? Are you in an IEP or in a 504 or do you belong in some other type of class? Okay, and do you have anything to demonstrate that? And so you have copies of your assessments or evaluations that the guidance counselor, for instance, could say, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, these were.
Because it's like I didn't know if they needed to have. Like a. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No, you were still going.
I didn't hear what you said.
Keep going.
Jen. Oh, okay. Okay, that's good. All right, I was a little bit confused over that sentence, but I think I know what you're talking about.
And the way I looked at this, Ray, was back in my child protection days when we would have to be looking at if kids were not removed school, but homeschooling, if they were still meeting the educational requirement according to the RSA, we could easily go to the school district and be like, so they're not necessarily in school, so we can't go to school and talk to the guidance counselors, but superintendent's office was able to say, nope, they've been submitting these evaluations, quarterly or whatever was in accordance with their homeschool policy. And then we could say they are following the program that the family set up. If it was like a year where we didn't have any evaluations and we could be like, are you really getting an education at home? You can't prove it because they have to be taught. But this way they would need to stay with the district and we wouldn't have to go and hunt down the company in Iowa that had this fantastic homeschool program. It was just already at the district office.
Right, but I'm just worried about those evaluations, like what the origins of them are. Should they be like sort of like accredited or
I
think does the evaluations? A parent can do their own evaluation.
Right, and that's why they would have to come in and we'd have to sit down with them. We'd have to sit down with them and review it. Okay, so we don't do it in a vacuum. If somebody wants to come back into the district, we'd have to, most likely the counselor, and when I was in Weston, we did this all the time. We had more people in Weston who were homeschooled, and but to sit down and say, we have to make sure we know as best we can where you're at academically.
Right.
We have to place you in a class, we have to place you in a level, whether it's college prep, foundation, honors, AP, whatever you want to call it. So we have to look at something, wherever it comes from.
Right. Okay. I got it.
Does anyone just shout out if you have any other questions?
Ray's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Keep it straight, Ray. I need help.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we forward this policy to the full board for approval.
I can second that. I will second that. On the motion to approve policy IHBG, Jen Bishop,
Yes.
Sandra Zine,
Yes.
and Ray Garino votes yes. The motion carries 3-0.
Good.
Fantastic. Moving right along, the next policy that we're looking at is the IHBGR. Wait. Yes, IHBGR. Mr. Parker, can you tell us a little bit more about this one? It's obviously attached to the one that we just reviewed.
It is attached, and it basically says this just delineates participation in co and extracurricular activities, and it's sort of redundant in a little bit actually, but I kept it. Requests by home educated public charter school or non-public school pupils for participation in curricular courses shall be made in writing by the parent, and it just further delineates, what the process is that a parent or guardian will go through. But number 9 is particularly important. Requests for the related services, including but not limited to physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that's an important bullet point there. Principals really drive this about to what extent they can use our services, and then usually we'll do that in conjunction with the team. So.
Yep, makes sense.
Am I missing something? Is it talking? Are you talking? You're not talking about other charter schools, for instance. Now, you're saying I'm missing something. I'm not.
No, let's say, but what this is saying, and this is New Hampshire and in Massachusetts is similar. Participation in public school activities, Nashua, by home educated charter and basically private school pupils if they live in Nashua, and they can have access to our resources. And that was first explained to me by Mr. Chopa, and I was sort of surprised that the law is that expansive. But,
yeah.
But there it is. And
so is there some kind of caveat that says that they have to abide by the same rules as the public schools, right?
Well, yes, especially if they're using our resources. Okay,
so
they're on our campus.
I'm sorry, I didn't look at it. Does this policy say that? Does it need to say that? Maybe it doesn't even need to.
I don't think it needs to say that, because at in number 4, the principal's decision shall be final. Okay, and so you can't just come in. You have to have a conversation. And that would involve.
Final is a good word. I like that.
Yes, the principal or the assistant principal or the assistant superintendent.
Or the authority, yes, whoever they happen to be.
The guidance counselor, if you're on an IEP, so your special education teacher. So it'll be a team approach, all right? Because you can't just come back in.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good.
And the way I look at this, Ms. Ziem, is like if a student wants to come in and do band or chorus, or maybe one of the CTE programs, is just because you're homeschooled and you have kind of this created plan and structure in your own house that you're going by. If you're going to come into the schools to participate in those extras, that you show up on time, you still follow the rules.
Yes. School rules apply.
Right.
One of the things that surprised me back when I was first on the board was that the television studio, we have so many slots that are allocated actually to not to Nashua, but to surrounding schools. And so that I found that to be very, very interesting. And of course, that happens to be a very popular I mean, it's like the School of Hair Design. Those are very popular, and we never have enough for everybody that wants. It's first come, first serve. Other than that, we only have so many slots for Nashua, so many for Hudson, whatever. So I thought that was, I had no idea, but it makes sense because the money is federal. So thank you. That was just a lot of hot air for nothing. Sorry.
I did. So when this is an aside, but I think I was one of the first classes that did the video tech at Nashua High, and it was literally like transferring VHS to VHS. There's a lot of stop and record.
But they do a great job. If you've ever, I don't know if they interviewed they always interviewed. Every time I ever ran, they did a show on it.
Yeah, the panel.
That the kids did a better job than the others, because their questions they actually looked at each candidate and they looked into their record, their experience, their thinking as had been displayed by their service. And then they targeted their questions to those areas. And I thought that was a superior way for the public to make a decision on who best reflected their particular concerns. So that television studio is I think wonderful. We're lucky to have Nashua's lucky in that we have all of these wonderful programs, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
We didn't have as good in Mass, right, Mr. Parker? I'm sure Mass had nothing. They have no money in Mass. We're rich over here in Nashua.
Plead the fifth.
Yes, no. It was a joke.
So I understand. But to your point earlier, Ms. Ziem, I just want to bring your attention down to the bottom of the second part of the policy, participation in co-extracurricular activities. And those 6 bullet points really get at the parameters, that we can hold kids accountable if they use our materials, our resources, and so making sure that the program or activity is developmentally appropriate for the pupil. Okay. And so it sort of spells it out.
The first year I was on the board, I said to the guy at the television studio, I said, if money were no problem and you could say there's one thing that we really need, what would that be? And he said, Mrs. Ziem, our studio is better than WMUR Channel 9. We have the best of everything. He was very sincere. And he said, I can't tell you. And so whether we've kept up with it, because obviously you do have to maintain and that costs money, but we do have, that studio is very impressive. And our kids are very fortunate to have that opportunity. I hope they all realize and take advantage as much as they can.
Yes, I think they do. And I think most folks would be surprised if you go to contemporary high schools and you look at their radio or TV stations. I think most of them would probably say the same, believe it or not.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
In Weston, when we saw our kids with TV cameras making films all over the building, and people walk into, we had a green room, and you look at some contemporary high schools, I think you have to upkeep it just to keep current. So I think.
Well, it was like even the conservatory that we have at the high school. For the longest time, Ray may remember this, for the longest time, they weren't able to, it had fallen, it needed repairs or something, but they finally got it. My understanding is right now it's in perfect, it's in good shape. I hope so, because taking care of what you get is a big responsibility in my view.
It is, absolutely.
Yes.
Mr. Green or Ms. Giglio, do you have any questions about this?
I don't have any questions. I'm learning a lot tonight, though.
We're a fun bunch, huh?
Oh, yeah. I want to join the party next time.
Well, it's such a wonderful opportunity, though, to when we have somebody like Mr. Parker or the other gentleman that was with us, to pick their brain and to really learn from their experience. It really is a wonderful opportunity to learn and expand your, And I think the more you know, the more useful you are as a board member. So I always tell myself, try to be a little smarter than you were when you got here.
Always a good motto.
Yes.
So I would entertain a motion to move IHBGR to the full board.
So moved.
I will second the motion.
Excellent.
Okay. On the motion, Jennifer Bishop,
Yes.
Sandra Zine,
Yes.
Ray Garino votes yes. Motion carries 3-0.
Excellent. And that is it on our agenda tonight. Our next full board meeting is the 21st. So we will present all of these, and I believe next policy meeting is going to be, I guess are we going to go, I don't know if we're going back to the first week of policy meetings, you know, how our normal schedule was. I know things were kind of up in the air. Everything's still up in the air. We don't know what's going on with the world just yet, but I don't think we have something scheduled for next month, but I'll get that out to you guys. Well, I'm sure Tara or Gabby and their magical abilities will get out that information to us.
Once we go through the organizational meeting and committees and things like that are decided, that's when the January policy meeting will go out. And
Okay.
that's how it'll be for the rest of the committees, just to make sure that everyone is available, since it's not going to really follow that pattern just because we don't have committees yet. So we need to make sure everyone's available that is on those new committees on those specific dates. And then it'll fall into a pattern for the rest of the year.
Okay, fantastic. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'd entertain a motion to end the meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn. Wishing you
Well,
a happy new year.
I will second that motion. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's and Happy Holidays.
To
Thank you.
everybody. Yes. And to all a good night.
Happy family stressful time for those of us that Christmas is not a welcome opportunity.
I'm sorry you didn't get some of this birthday cake. It was delicious.
I don't
On the motion to adjourn, Jen Bishop,
Yes.
Sandra Zine,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Motion carries 3-0 at 6:53 p.m.
Good night.